That last minute, it just seems to go on forever.
It always is when you're watching it.
Yeah.
A watched pot.
Okay. Good evening. The Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees regular meeting for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Trustee Monahan is excused. Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Trustee Buckley.
Here.
Clerk Vorva here. Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Here, participating remotely from my home in Plymouth Township, Michigan.
Supervisor Heising.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, so before we go to the Pledge of Allegiance, I do want to indicate why Treasurer Dorshevitz is participating remotely tonight. So he has a medical condition which qualifies under the Americans with Disabilities Act. He has explained the illness to myself and Clerk Vorva, and there is a Michigan Attorney General opinion from February of this year. It's Michigan AG Opinion 7318, which says that an elected or appointed official serving in a public body may participate in the discussions and deliberations and may vote in those discussions and deliberations if he or she has a bona fide Americans with Disabilities Act illness or medical condition, which Treasurer Dorshevitz unfortunately has tonight. But he is getting better, and I'm sure he'll be at our next meeting in person. So Bob, are you okay with what I've explained?
Yeah, I'm good. So I'll volunteer that I'm positive for COVID, so I don't think any of you want me near you.
No, we don't. Okay. At this time then, for the Pledge of Allegiance, how about Trustee Stewart? Eagle Scout.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second by Trustee Kermy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, approval of the consent agenda. I understand Trustee Kermy has a couple questions, so why don't you take care of that now?
Let's go to page 43 of 157, the Plymouth Township Fire Department report. Northville Township is continuing to disproportionately use our resources. Chief, we talked about this a couple of months ago. Do you have any progress on a plan to reduce their overuse of our generosity in mutual aid?
Nothing so far. I can mention it to Chief Siegel. I mentioned it again. Discussion on it.
Residents are starting to ask me questions that I can't explain. I just tell them it's mutual aid, and Northville Township does not have a private ambulance service like we do. It's usually the answer I give, so they have no backup. It's us. Second one now is planning, page 63 of 157. The Elks Project, Plymouth Walk.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor it was rejected by the county. Is that true? Not true. Okay. So that's not what they're going back for. All right. Good. That's it?
No, they came back actually to the Planning Commission at our request because we had additional requirements and requests that we had of them, which they have complied with. So, okay. Any other questions on the consent agenda?
One comment on the police report. I hope you can gradually work on a low labor report that's more informative to us. It's a little hard to read. I think it's not printing very well, partly because it's hard to pick up to make a copy of a PDF in color. So I realize that, but maybe some statistics that can be taken off the Clemis without a lot of labor, rearranged so that it's a good executive summary type report that we can quickly look for the data. I don't know, maybe we could benchmark other people that are using Clemis. What are they doing for their report for their electeds, something like that. Because I don't want you to reinvent the wheel or spend a bunch of labor,
Sir.
but we want to make it useful.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the consent agenda? I'll need a motion then.
Mr. Supervisor, I move for the approval of the consent agenda for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022.
Motion is made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Stewart. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
We need a
We do need a
roll call
because we do have
resolutions. Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good, thank you, Clerk. Item E is public comment, limited to 3 minutes. This is not your only opportunity during the evening. If you're here on a specific item, if I could just ask to wait until that specific item comes up. This is just for more of a general discussion topics at this point that are not on the agenda. 3 minutes, yeah, come on.
Good, now I can leave early, enjoy the rest of the day. Donna Broderick, 23-year resident of Plymouth Township. I'm standing before you because I was reviewing a transcript from the June 21st meeting, the meeting minutes. I'm going to read a quick excerpt. It says, Brian Buckley expressed the need to have the trustee position be held by Conservative Beyond 2024, and the police and fire union support Jennifer Buckley. I know Ms. Buckley's been chosen, but I just wanted to clarify that I researched this and spoke to people from the unions, and they said they do not endorse or support at this level. I'm not sure if the chiefs are aware of that or not, and I just wanted to clarify it because I've worked on campaigns, I've been an elected official. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, that they did not give any support at this level, obviously because it was in the trustees' hands too to select the next trustee. So I just thought that might be nice to know for the audience, for the Board of Trustees, and for the police and fire commissioners. And the next topic, I'm here on behalf of 2 neighbors who are unable to make it, and please don't laugh, the turkeys in our neighborhood. We live in Ridgewood Hills, we back up into woods, and we've had a lot of problems. We have at least 40 or 50 turkeys. I'm standing up here because my neighbor was attacked by the turkey. Thank goodness it triggered her alarm because she was running to her garage and the police showed up. And she just wants some answers and we all want some resolve. I know that the DNR says use a hose. So on a daily basis, my poor neighbor is running around with a hose trying to squirt these turkeys. I know it sounds like a joke, but she's kind of distressed and stressed about it. I mean, she's 70 years old in good health with her husband. She's called the township. She's spoken to Dan Adkins. He's been very accommodating. I've spoken to Dan Adkins. I've spoken to the DNR. So I'm just wondering if there's something more that you guys can do. I know that they were removed back in Ann Arbor Road when they were blocking traffic. That's what Dan told me.
Well, I wouldn't say they were removed, but let me, I just.
Okay, so I'm just saying, we get a lot of conflicting information. I just want to help my neighbor because, long story short, they're on her roof. She has videos. They're in her trees, and they're leaving all their feces on her deck, and they love her house. She has the most beautiful house in my neighborhood. She doesn't feed them, as we all know. Feeding is the main source, and we have a lot of people who love bird feeders in my neighborhood. So again, I'm here to advocate for Linda and Gary, but then the rest of the neighborhood too. I mean, every day they're just wandering around, so thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Eat them.
That's what somebody said.
Yeah. And just to clarify, I mean, where turkeys have been a traffic hazard, the police will go out and shoo them away, but we are not killing them or trapping them or anything like that, so.
Where do they shoo away to?
Back into your backyard, probably.
Yeah, that's
So,
probably right.
back into the forest. But, you know, the best advice I can give right now is that they seem to be kind of migratory. I know about a year ago, they were over in this neighborhood, and they've been kind of marching westward. I have them in my neighborhood too, so not to that degree,
I
though.
mean, they attacked her, and that's when.
Yeah, no, they,
And she's mentally, I
Yeah.
mean, every day, I drove by today,
Yeah.
and and she couldn't make it today, and I just want to try to be an advocate for her, because I told her, you know, and for the board of trustees, and,
Well, if they attack her, she can kill them.
Self-defense?
Yeah? A human has a total right to kill an animal that's attacking to them.
No.
But,
she was a broom, so.
so,
Okay.
I'll give, these are my 2 cents on it. Get as many neighborhood dogs walking around there. Yeah, those birds don't like dogs. And then maybe, some of these fake decoy predators, like,
She looked into that, it's very expensive, she's thinking community township, to let her borrow one from a club or something like
do we have one at the park?
Yeah, we have several.
What are they?
They're just cutouts
Coyotes?
of coyotes, and they're wind, they move around with the wind. It's been effective with the geese. I don't know what effect it has on turkeys.
Ben Franklin wanted the turkey to be the national bird over the bald eagle. So thankful that that didn't happen.
Okay. So, again, we're still under public comment, 3 minutes. If you're here on a different topic, then we'll certainly accommodate your time as well.
Hi, Anna Steele. One quick question, and I think maybe Jeremy or Laura would be able to answer it. In regards to the Elks project, I followed your recommendation and listened in on the meeting and everything. Your recommendation was 4, however, the recommendation of Spalding to Decker was not for final site approval.
Is this what, the planning commission?
Correct.
I didn't hear
So
that.
I just don't know how that works, so if you could explain it to me. It was just, to me, the engineering company is saying no, planner's saying yes.
Yeah, I'm not, maybe that was a typo, but we were for final site plan approval with all of the stipulations involved with permitting, et cetera. So
It was a typo?
maybe. Adam was at that meeting, so I'll have to ask him about that, but.
I'll just give you this then. This will actually show you on page 44 of that report. I find it hard to believe it was a typo because it says final engineering approval is not recommended at this time due to the number and nature of the comments.
Oh, this is final engineering approval, not final site plan approval. So
Okay.
final, after we get through site plan approval, then they come in for engineering. So they have to post an escrow, go through all the engineering details, and go through the permitting process, the easement process, and then they get final engineering approval. So that's the step we're on, is engineering approval. That's why it's not recommended for engineering approval.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, anybody else? If not, we will move on to the new business. Okay, so new business. Item F1 is the McClumpha Ann Arbor Road zoning appeal. This is Planning Director Laura Hod. You just want to give us a quick overview, and then we'll have the applicant come forward.
Yes, thank you. Evening, trustees. The proposed project includes parcel ID 78054990015000, which is at the northwest corner of Ann Arbor Road and McClumpha Road. So that includes the entire portion of that parcel and then also a portion of the adjacent parcel to the north, for a total land area of 5.44 acres. The applicant is requesting a conditional rezoning, and with the intent that they would eventually seek a cluster housing option, a CHO, in order to build 24 attached residences. The second page of our report details the surrounding land uses, the surrounding zoning classifications, and the surrounding future land use designations. We also provide a density comparison with the existing district. That's the R1H, one family district. Following that, there is the R1S district, which is not proposed. That's for comparison only. And then the R1 district, which is also a one family district, which is the proposed new zoning district. And under that scenario, that's where the 24 dwelling units could be reached. The Planning Commission considered this proposal at their May 18th regular meeting and held a public hearing. They did recommend denial 6-1 to the Board of Trustees. As a conditional rezoning, the Board of Trustees is the final authority on such a decision. And there's been 2 resolutions provided in your packet, one for approval of the conditional rezoning, one for denial. Those aren't your only 2 options. You could also table the item or rescind it back to the Planning Commission for further study. Our professional opinion is to recommend approval of the conditional rezoning. This would provide a housing typology that occurs less than 3% of all the housing dwelling units in the township, which I think we're very familiar with the changing demographics just across the nation in general, but having a diversity of housing stocks for aging populations especially is very important to allow folks to remain in the communities that they want to.
How many stories are these units that are proposed?
They haven't provided building elevations. We haven't gotten to that level of detail, but these would be 2-story structures, as I understand, so not taller than a single-family home could be.
You say that's for aging in place, 2 stories? Usually it's ranch-style single-story.
Well, often the products that we're seeing have the main on the first floor and then like a bonus room in the second story.
So there's a master suite on the first floor.
The main suite, yes.
And how many units in a building?
There's 8 buildings that are currently proposed across the site. It's a mix of 2, 3, and 4 unit. The plan up.
Laura, what's the tree situation there? I mean, I know this is a heavily forested area, so have you been able to make any estimates on what the tree impact would be under the ordinance?
The applicant has provided a tree summary, so this is not an official tree survey, but a general tree assessment. There are some just scrub and invasive species on the site. It's not, the quality of trees is not as desirable as one might wish. However, with the cluster housing option, the township has greater control than if a single-family homeowner were to develop the lot and remove the trees as they wished.
Most of it appears to be.
Hey, Laura, can we clarify what they have the right to, how many units they could put on the property as a matter of right without the rezoning and without approval of the Planning Commission or the board?
Well, as of right now, the zoning ordinance allows for 2 dwelling units an acre. So at 5.5 acres, after you
So that would be 11.
9.
Well, yeah, probably 11, but then you have to account for the infrastructure itself, so the road, so you would probably end up something closer to 9.
Okay. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that there's a choice between what they can build as a matter of right without any township control versus this cluster housing option, which would give us the ability to have more control over the outcome. Is that an accurate statement?
Correct.
When you say control, you mean saving trees which are not really valuable? Because it's a flat piece of land with no water on it, right?
You would be able to control the architecture of the buildings. You would be able to control the landscaping that goes in. If this were single family, just a single family home builder, we couldn't even require street trees, for instance. If there's any amenities, if there's a community benefit as part of the cluster housing development.
Why do you say that in the past, Plymouth Township subdivisions have required street trees? So what has changed?
If it were to be like a platted sub,
Platted subs are the ones that had the street trees.
Correct. And
So-
to my knowledge, I mean,
Well, the planning commission negotiates that. That's how they ended up there. Where you live, there used to be street trees, and they were there because they were negotiated by the planning commission.
yes, that's to say that they would do a platted sub, though. They could
Right.
also just subdivide the land, or someone could just build one home on it and maintain complete control.
Yeah, one home, I don't think Plymouth Township would be worried about that. You know, that's private property. I mean, one person. So I guess the case that we're going to have more control, but the end result is higher density.
Yeah, that's the trade-off.
Can you summarize what the planning commission felt like and why they voted no, Bob, and why the one person voted yes? Did they make a case?
I can't speak to why the one person voted yes. There wasn't really a case made, but the planning commission voted no because we primarily did not feel that it was within the consistent with the characteristics of the surrounding land use, and so we thought I think generally we thought it was too dense, and we're willing to accept the trade-off of not having the control rather than have that many units on that little piece of property.
All right, thanks.
Okay, anything else, Laura? Any other questions anybody else has for Laura? Okay, so why don't we have Mr. Gonzalez come forward and state his case.
Members of the board, Leo Gonzalez, on behalf of Phoenix Management Holdings, Roman numeral 4 LLC.
And who are the principals of that unit?
I am the sole member of that entity. I have sent some documents to the planning to be posted on the, and I also have hard copy. So whatever the board prefers. I can pass out hard copy, presentation materials, or we can post it.
I'd like hard copy because I
Hard copy.
can't read that quick.
That's good.
It didn't come out this afternoon to us, so I think hard copy is the best way.
Thank you.
Two that I sent before. So with the package, I did submit a cover letter stating the points of the project. As much as I'm proposing a conditional approval, I offered up some elements to be attached to this project as it would go forward. But before I get into that step of the process, let me kind of focus on why I'm here now and why I feel the merits of this project are supported by the master plan. The Planning Commission and the board has undertaken a task of doing a master plan update here. And the pages that you see in your package here are redacted pages of that master plan. Over 900 people reported on the master plan process. And with that, I suspect there was a number of questions that they were answering for the benefit of the Planning Commission and the members of the board in the future as they update this master plan. I find that looking through this information, that the master plan recognizes that there's over 120 units that are needed by this community of product to satisfy the demand. Yet we only provide about 50 households for the future, and that's 50 households for the next year. Now, that is going to be vary a bit because you do have some other projects on the horizon that will increase that amount. But I'll note that the projects that are on the horizon, the townhouse product, and that are going to be at some point situated on the, I'll call it the east side of the town, are not conducive to the customer that I think that there's the biggest demand for. And the customer that I think that there is the biggest demand for is the empty nester customer that already lives in your community. Bought a single family home 25, 30, 40 years ago, raised their family, and are kind of at a point in their life that they want to take the next step in the housing. And that next step is, as we know, a product that has generally a master bedroom on the first floor. That would be this product. This would be a master bedroom on the first floor. There would be a 1 to 2 rooms on the second floor, which would service as a bonus room, potentially another bedroom for the grandchildren to come over on the weekends. Give them a little bit more flexible space, because many of them are moving out of homes that are much larger than the product that I would be delivering. So this kind of fits into the objectives. The 900 people that responded to this, and I kind of underlined the real salient points of each of these, of each of this information that was provided through the master plan, that I'll flip to the third page of it. To encourage middle housing developments and introduce a diversity of housing options at various scales of affordability, and encourage denser, walkable, more connected communities. That's what this project does. It encourages a denser product. It is walkable. It is, as you know, you have a good network of sidewalks along Ann Arbor Road. True, to the west of it, it does fall off because of some topography issues. But from here, from this project to the north, this project to the east is serviced by sidewalks. So this will encourage a more walkable product. It would also encourage a product that is generally located on the west side of the township, where a lot of the single-family neighborhoods have been built in the last 30 to 40 years, and allow people to position and live there for years to come. I feel that the project would also lend itself to an affordable experience for them. Now, affordable is really a word that's loosely stated because I guess that's relative, but prices have gone up. But we also know that the people that are owning these single-family homes, their houses have gone up as well. So this would be a good transition for them to sell a house that they come out of that is a property that they probably have to maintain right now, and go into a maintenance-free type of living where all the common elements are managed by somebody else, landscaping, snow removal, into the exterior elements. This is what this population that I think that will be serviced by this will and have are of interest to them. So to that point, the reason I kind of designed this was around the fact that there is a need for the housing. We're going to see an increase. If you look at one of the last pages of this thing, we're going to see an increase in the housing population, the age. So this is a very interesting statistic. Between 2000 and 2018, the median age in the community increased by 14.9%. That means the aging population is continuing to grow in this community. And by comparison, if you look at the median age between City of Plymouth, Northville, Canton, Wayne, and Southeastern Michigan, we're the oldest median age community. That means that we have an aging population statistically, and those aging population are going to take the next step for seeking other housing options.
So I have a question. So I live right across the street from this development that you're
Yes.
proposing. We have a lot of empty nesters in our subdivision, as a matter of fact. So are you proposing that these types of empty nesters would be more attracted to a development like yours, just across the street? They'd pack everything up and then head on over to these
Absolutely.
maintenance-free, really?
That's this, not everybody,
Because
but
my neighbors have all left. One went to Florida, one moved up north.
true. But I also know people like John Moran, who lived in our community for 40 years, ran a business, a Colonial Collision, and he came to a point where he wanted to buy a product in the township, and he ultimately bought a home in Northville Township. He wanted to stay here. He also lived in another place during the winter months in Palm Springs. So the difference is that what we find is when some of these people get to that age, they're fortunate enough, they have a residence somewhere else in the winter. So they live in the winter somewhere else. So the need to have a larger home up in this area is not as important. It's certainly not as important as their family has grown on and gone on to the next chapter of their lives. So I've got a neighbor, by example, lives next door to me. She's 80 years old, been in the community, original resident. And, the only reason she hasn't sold her house is because she hasn't been able to find a home within the community that she can move to. So I do think that this will offer people a choice. Right now, they don't have a choice.
So you're aware, right, that there's a huge high school that accommodates over 6,000 students, as well as a middle school and another elementary school. So again, I'm asking, do you think empty nesters are going to really want to be in the mix of that type of community?
Yeah,
Because a lot of people in my neighborhood are moving in to utilize those public schools. So I would presume that we're looking for a my age type of population.
Well, it's interesting because that's another benefit of this whole project, is if I can convince the empty nester that there's another product in the community, then I've just earned the ability to get a family to come into our community and come into our schools. A family that we have limited amount of single-family options. Of course, we have the Robertson Brothers, very popular, brick and mortar going up everywhere. They've sold quite a few of the units. There's a demand. So I don't disagree with that. This is not going to be for everybody. There might be some people that would rather move out of the community. What I say is let's at least give the community an opportunity to be able to buy in the community. And that they don't have right now. They've got some older product, Arbor, I think it's called Arbor Heights around the corner of McClumpha. Arboretum.
It's Arboretum.
Got New England Estates. I've never seen one go for sale in New England. Arboretum, I just did recently see two come on the market.
They were about 750,000.
But the
they
southeast corner of McClumpha and Ann Arbor Road, what are those called?
Behind
New England.
Mr.
New England?
Supervisor, the $650,000. That product is 25 to 30 years old.
That's the New England Commons or whatever on the
Oh,
corner.
southeast corner, I've never seen one.
Southeast corner, yeah.
Southwest corner is behind the funeral home, which is the Arbor.
Arboretum.
Arboretum.
Those are big homes, really.
Those are 25 years old.
They are. So our product would be 1,800 to 2,200 square feet.
30 years old.
Could potentially
And they're
go up to 2,300, 2,400, depending upon the flexibility that I may play with the first or the second floor. They will have two-car garages. They will be all brick. In some cases, they will be duets, threeplexes.
So this is 3 stories high then, if
Two
they have,
stories.
so where do the cars go?
It's a front load garage, like your typical Colonial with a front load garage. So the garage will be on the first floor. You have an entrance. Very similar to the product that's being built on Ann Arbor Road, off just east of this on the north side.
So
Across from
again,
Pioneer?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's Menards.
I'm very
Yeah, but those are
familiar with
free.
this area. I live right there. I pass by it all the time. And so on the west side of that, of McClumpha Road is very almost rural. You've got a lot of homes there that have a lot of land. And then so just out of nowhere, there's just going to be this apartment-type looking buildings?
Not apartment, no, these are condos.
I understand, but apartment-like
Two-story,
looking,
they won't be any larger
two-story
than the,
attached.
they won't be any higher than the 4,000 square foot houses in the back. Those houses are probably at some point at the peak 28 to 32 feet. These will be probably under 27. The idea with the cluster, to kind of answer your question on what people will see, if you look at this, there's a site plan. Were you able to find the site plan that had the overlay of the woodlands? Jeremy?
We have several documents in our
There's
pack.
one that shows an overlay of what we envisioned for the, when you take the trees, there you go. This is a good example. So the idea with the cluster, I will be able to do this, and the goal would be to save as many of these trees along the perimeter. When you come to McClumpha and Ann Arbor Road in the future, you're gonna still look into that dearth of trees there. Yes, you're gonna see this building off of here, off of Ann Arbor Road, because it's not completely insulated. But I'm gonna try to create the same integrity, that corner to be the way it looks now. Now, there are some caveats that we gotta clear out a road, I gotta put in stormwater to manage the stormwater in the development. So I'm gonna do as much of an effort to create a development here that takes the natural features and complements the development. Because people do want that. People don't want to move in. There is some drawbacks to moving into a new development because you don't have the benefit of all the trees. My neighborhood included, Country Club Village, when I moved in there. They cleared all the trees and 25 years later it looks great. It didn't look that way when we initially moved in there. I think in time, with this it's gonna be unique because I'm gonna have a lot of stuff that I can save here and be cognizant of that. There are some trees here, there's some invasive species here, locusts. We get a fair amount of black locusts here that are not good quality trees. They're probably constricting some of the healthier trees there. We've got some elm, box elder that are not in good shape. So the quality, although it is appealing, the quality of the tree there, I had my tree, Brian Devlin did a study. He took a 50-foot swath of trees and just gave me an understanding of the 30 trees that were in that 50-foot, just arbitrarily took a 50-foot area of that tree, of that total project. And, of that 50-foot by 50-foot area, over 40% of the trees were invasive or dead dead or poor condition. So, I know that doesn't, I know some people would rather have any tree there, even if it is invasive, but the reality is it's a tree there is some good quality product there. What I would hope is I could take some of the product that's good quality, isolate it, so that we've got some better quality long-term for the benefit of its residents.
Well, I just want to make one more point in regards to the sidewalks. There would be no sidewalks on that side of the development. You were talking about it being a walkable area. The residents would have to cross the street, which can be very dangerous because we have a light right there.
You talk about internal sidewalks?
Yeah, you can see the sidewalks on the right. They go down to
I think
Ann Arbor
you're saying that
Trail.
there's no sidewalks
There's
on
no
Ann Arbor.
sidewalks on
Ann
the
Arbor
west
Road.
side of,
Oh, on Ann Arbor Road.
not,
Internally.
no, I'm talking about McClumpha Road.
See, McClumpha by the church, you've got sidewalks.
You've got sidewalks there.
And on
And
the
there's-
west side, you don't.
Yeah.
Well, he'd have to install them. It's required.
Well, those are all private
No,
properties
in
going
front of his
down.
property, this development, he must install sidewalks.
Yeah,
Or-
but they would end.
Yeah, it would be a
Correct.
sidewalk that would end.
It would end, there's some topography problems, as you know, that area, walking down this way, you run into some guardrail problems, run into.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't necessarily try to sell it as a walkable.
Well, on the
Area.
east side, there's a sidewalk that goes entirely from Ann Arbor Trail to Ann Arbor Road. On the east
Yeah,
side.
that's what I just said,
Yeah.
that the residents would have to cross the street, which can, it's.
There's a
40
light.
And there's a light there. It's not as easy as it seems, because I live in that area, walk with my kids, and I mean, you've got 55-mile-an-hour cars. So, and then the picture you have here on the paper, is this a proposed, like some sort of a gazebo here for the residents?
No, that's your master plan. So
So this has nothing to do with your project?
No, these are this is the master plan. I just kind of took excerpts out of the master plan that was
It's on the website of Plymouth Township.
approved.
Gotcha.
But to your point, on the public benefit, I have proposed, I've kind of weighed with the idea of these public benefits and how much do they really get utilization by the residents versus maybe really creating a meaningful public benefit for more sidewalks in the community. I raised my family here, been downtown many a times over the years, and was not happy with the accessibility from going from the western subs to downtown. So what I suggest in my proposal here, that I will donate $15,000 into the sidewalk fund. I would rather do that than do a gazebo on site or a open area that maybe some people use, the residents use. To me, being able to provide additional money for more sidewalks can be applied through more area throughout the township. We certainly, from a practical standpoint, are not going to be able to access every area of the township through our sidewalks because of some problems, geographic problems with roads and topography and so forth. So I do make that part of my proposal in my conditional zoning.
So Leo, would you consider the Beaver Creek project? This is off of Ann Arbor Road and Hillcrest. Southeast corner of Ann Arbor Road and Hillcrest. That's Beaver Creek, Arbor Court, Timberline. I mean, that to me sounds kind of comparable, although yours appears to be more dense than what we have there at Beaver Creek. I'm just using that as an example. Another example would be the development, which has been there for many years at the northwest corner of Ridge and North Territorial, just north of Northridge Church.
Those are the blue, they're painted blue, a lot of them are blue.
Denser product, higher elevate, that's much denser product.
A much higher elevation for people.
Much higher elevation. Now, that is a 3-story building.
Now, Beaver Creek, though, is similar to what you're proposing.
What's the other major cross street on Beaver Creek in Ann Arbor?
Where's Beaver Creek?
Hillcrest and Ann Arbor Road.
It has a white
South.
retaining wall, white brick retaining wall over a creek on the south side of the road as you're going west in front of Ridgewood Hills.
Anyway, I'm just trying to point out some comparable units that already exist for this kind of senior population.
I know which one you're talking. That's Deer Creek. That's part of,
Oh.
on the south side. They created those condos, those attached products. That was part of the single family years ago.
Yeah, I mean, they're somewhat attached,
There's
a combination maybe.
yeah.
Okay, because I'm just looking at the main street is called Beaver Creek, but if it's Deer Creek,
It's part of the Deer Creek,
Yeah.
well, it's part of that development.
Okay.
I would compare this.
Quail Ridge is the subdivision that it's adjacent to.
That's true, right.
That's correct.
I'm providing a product, yeah, it is, there's probably not a whole lot of projects that are identical to this. Eaton Squares, those are duets and threeplexes, built many years ago, part of Beacon Hill. That's a township project. But that's a larger product. So,
I'm just throwing out some comparables that already exist, so.
I might add too, I had a couple letters come to me from residents that had written me. Here's an example. And this was actually a personal example that happened because I happened to represent her on the sale of her home. I had a lady that sold, and I don't mean to get too involved in the details, but I think it's real important that these decisions about whether we provide housing in the community really have consequences. to some people's lives. And all I'm saying is I just want to give them a choice. So this lady named Rosa lived in Huntington Park. I sold her house in December of 2021 after being on the market for a couple months. I think she hoped that it wouldn't sell. It did sell. And then we were tasked with the project of finding her a condo in the township. And we went everywhere. We went to Country Club Village, bid on a couple detached products. Went to Northville, bid on a couple detached products. She didn't really want to go to Northville. She ultimately had to buy another single-family home because she didn't want to live in an apartment for 9 months to 12 months while a condo was being built off of 5 Mile and Haggard. Now, mind you, that was a compromise for her because that was a townhouse. She intended on selling her single-family home so she could move into a ranch-style home and couldn't realize that goal. It was distraught for her. She's a single lady. She ended up buying the single-family home in Country Club Village, needed a lot of work. You know, she got through it. But my point is, if we had an option for her, someone who's been part of our community for 20 years, it would have made the transition a lot easier for her.
But you just brought up something. Ranch is what typically seniors that want to downsize to a 1,500 to 2,000 square foot ranch, a lot like what's across from Pioneer Middle School to Menard development. There is another development. It's a sleeper, and I've asked people to take a look at it. It's built on a small lot. It's right on the north side of Gilbert in the east end of the township overlooking Hines Park. They look like single-family homes. They're really site condos. They are extremely well done. Why aren't more people copying those? And they're affordable.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
It's
as
called
well.
Pineway at Gilbert. You ought to go take a look at it.
Attached product, right?
No, detached. They look like single-family homes in a circle.
They're single story, right?
Single story. I mean, that is the market that the people I talk to would like something like that, where they have a little bit of yard, very little, but it's taken care of predominantly by an association, or you could arrange it that way, whatever. So they don't have to worry about mowing their lawn if they don't want to. And it just seems like it's such an easy sleeper to do that versus all of the machinations we're going through on this property. I know it's difficult to get your profit target, but it seems like that's what people, the problem with the ones across from from Pioneer Middle School is they're very expensive. They're probably $700,000. But
it's a byproduct of it's a byproduct of the expenses to build. And I live this with Tuscany. You know, I thought I set off on this goal to build a product that was going to be in the $600,000 price point.
They're $1 million.
I am not disagreeing, because it's a byproduct of what it costs to build that road. That road I thought the road was going to cost me $550,000. The road cost me $850,000. I was heavy. I was short on dirt. The only way I could balance these costs, and I didn't mean to interrupt. If you have another thought, by all means, I'd like to hear it. But the only way I can balance these costs for that road that comes through that project, that 550 feet or 650, I think 600 linear feet, is to have more units share in the cost. The detached product is a desirable product. And if I could get the cost to balance, and if I could get, what my goal is, again, is not to be able to be in a position where I have to be forced to sell product for $600,000 to $700,000. My goal is to try to get a product that's more affordable to the community. And the only way I can pencil that out, this is what I do day in and day out. The only way I can pencil that out and not go through these gyrations, if you would, is to have more units share in the cost of that development, and hopefully have a product that it's more affordable than the Tuscanys and these detached products. You know, you save a lot of money on a duplex. You save more money on a threeplex, and you save even more money on a fourplex, because you get the roof lines that you design for a 4-year.
Yeah, you have less of a perimeter for foundation and basement.
Clearly. So it adds up. You know, everybody says, oh, it's just a little bit of money here, a little bit of money here. You know, the development business is all about pennies. It adds up, and all of a sudden, you can afford to get your target or you don't. Masonry, you know, doing an extra mason wall today. I can tell you right now, it's $1.50 a brick. So it's, you know, another $7,000 to do an extra wall of brick.
Well, why don't we brainstorm on some of these things? First of all, I really urge you to take a look at this Pine Way mini development. Is maybe we can work with people, for example, brick. Many young people especially are not into brick today. So maybe we need to look at something else. The township, you know, obviously has certain restrictions on brick. The other thing is, why are we going 100% stick built? Can't we semi-stick built it, semi-modular, have some of the panels built in a factory? And you can have, I know people get all wound up, said, oh, it's not modular. We build homes so inefficiently in this part of the country. We're assembly line people. We know how to build things. I'm surprised we haven't figured out a way, especially if you're building a subdivision where you have a lot of common parts. Every house has similar walls. You build them in a factory and you bring them in instead of all stick built on site with the carpenter freezing his rear end off and not making a straight cut, but so what? Let's just slap it in there. So I think you get better quality if you have fixtures and people aren't freezing or in downpour building. So
Panelized is very
we
popular.
really need to get out of the box and look at a way to do things differently to get what people want. And I can assure you, my observation, I'm in that high mileage crowd wanting to downsize, right? People would prefer something that kind of looks a little bit like a single family home, and then they can have a little bit of their own mark on it where it's not, you must follow every condo rule. You can't plant a lily, it's got to be a mum, those kinds of things which come from these types of developments. I really think we need to do some different thinking, and it's got to come from people like you who are creative and have the money, and people like us who have to be flexible enough to make it work. But developers are using the only thing they're using as a way to make their profitability number is density. I don't see any other out-of-the-box thinking. So that's what I'm urging you to do. I'm going to vote no on this today, but I think we need to do some more work on it and figure out a way to make it desirable for a developer, yet for the neighbors and the people who I think live in Plymouth don't want to see things that are monolithic, which these I don't think will be, like the Bathy condominiums between Ann Arbor Trail and Main Street on Mill Street. I mean, those get the ugly stick. But anyway, that's my thought. And I urge you to do some more homework.
Okay, anything else, any other questions for Leo or anything else that you'd like to add at this point?
You know, we have kind of recognized the needs of the community. We've recognized how, and I don't know if that correlates entirely to your point, Mr. Kermey, but when I look at a synopsis of your master plan of 900 people who responded to it, and one of the top elements in this entire project is objectives, goals and objectives, housing and neighborhoods. The residents have already said that there's a demand for this. We have no housing, and we've got very few pieces in the township that will even accommodate this type of development. And, you know, certainly there are better ways to be more effective in building these products. But at the end of the day, it's my professional opinion and my experience dealing with costs today that yes, I can panelize and maybe bring the prices down. But the labor to put the product up is going to be just as much today. The electrician is going to charge me the same amount of money. The plumber is going to charge me the same amount of money. Do I want to go to all siding? I don't actually. The people that I'm dealing with are more traditional people that probably 95% of them live in an all brick home. So although it is a good way to save money, I don't think it's where, respectfully, I don't think it's where my target customers' desires are. They want to see something that they brick up.
You are aware that many people are painting over their brick right now?
They probably are. So, I felt that I've done a very gleaned the best salient points out of your master plan that the community responded to and sort of just satisfy a need of a goal and objective. I'll leave you with this kind of thought. And this was another letter that was sent to me. And she goes on to say, I've lived in Plymouth for over 30 years. I'm retired from Plymouth Canton Schools. I was a school counselor. Years ago, moving from Livonia to Plymouth was a great move, and I've grown to love the Plymouth area as I age, and I would very much like to stay here. Ever since I lost my husband, I've been looking for a condo in this area. Her husband passed away about 12 years ago. I never realized how few options there are able to stay in Plymouth. Sell my house and move to a smaller place of residence like a condo. I'm urging you to provide housing opportunities for people who sell their homes, downsize, and yet remain in Plymouth, where they can be surrounded by other seniors in the community who are in the same situation as they are and at the same age. I do not want to move from Plymouth just because there's a lack of housing suitable for seniors in our community. Please consider increasing our opportunities as seniors to move to condos, continue to live in Plymouth, where we've enjoyed living for so many years.
Okay. I have a question for
So,
Treasurer Dorshevitz, who you and I are on the same wavelength. You're our delegate to the Planning Commission. What are your thoughts on this application?
so I kind of think that the discussion here moved away from the central issue, which is it's not really a question of whether there's a market for this product in this particular context. It's a question of whether we accept the recommendations of the planning department and the justification for rezoning this particular parcel. And I think that's really kind of the central issue that the conversation seems to have slid away from, and is really talking about building materials and things like that, which are not really germane to the topic. So I think we should focus back on the justification of the Planning Commission and to have a discussion around, I'm sorry, not the Planning Commission, but the Planning Department in the memo, and have a discussion around whether that makes sense or not.
Well, Bob, the planning department recommended yes. The planning commission went no.
Correct.
So what were the overriding issues at the Planning Commission level? I know we have the minutes, but you were there, so what was your impressions?
My impression is that it's this particular project on this particular property because it's dense and it has a pretty significant impact on the neighbors, and I think we've already talked about some of this. Is that it comes down to the fundamental question: is that if there were 11 dwelling units on this property with no control, is that preferable to this proposal of whatever it is, 24 with control? As a result of it being a cluster housing option. So I think that was basically the sentiment, was that it was it's just too dense for 5 acres.
Okay, are you ready for
John?
Go ahead.
No, John Stewart has a question.
I'm asking because we're in open discussion here.
Yeah.
Is there any consensus to refer this back to the Planning Commission? But let me tell you this. As an elected trustee from 88 to 92, Gary Roberts and Bob DiMattia brought in A1 quality projects, and we approved them. You guys put me in mind of that. You really do. There's your left-handed compliment for the night. Van Esley and Gonzalez. But I do believe that I would like to let the Planning Commission get back in the batter's box and talk with you. So, and you've educated enlighten the community with your comments tonight. But I will vote to refer this back to the Planning Commission.
Are you ready for a
I'm
motion?
not sure, while I appreciate that, John, I'm not really sure that that would be the right thing to do unless there's a specific reason that you think that the Planning Commission acted, was incorrect. Maybe if you think that the Planning Commission misapplied the law, or misapplied the guidelines under which it should operate, then that's a proper reason to kick it back, but just kick it back and say, look at it again. I don't think it's going to change the outcome.
Ready for a motion?
Mr. Kermy?
I move to adopt Resolution 2022-08-23-50, authorizing denial of the Town Place Corner residential conditional zoning map amendment from the R1H one-family residential district to the R1 one-family residential district.
Okay, so a motion's been made by trustee Kermy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Buckley. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes means deny.
I know.
Yes means no.
I said yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Supervisor Heidi.
Yes.
Trustee, Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Clerk Corbett, yes. Motion carries.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. If you're here on this matter tonight, we're closed on this issue for now, so.
Been over yet.
Okay then, we're going to move on to item F2. This is request to order two 2023 Ford Transit 350 12-passenger vans for the senior transportation program. So, okay folks, just let's take it outside. Thank you.
Wow,
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so as part of our ARPA funding, we've already authorized the expenditure of $25,000 for these vehicles. The total cost for both vehicles is $111,280. The total budgeted amount is $111,300. We have to place the order before September 9th so that we can get into the queue for next year. We won't get these vans until probably the fall of next year. And so we need to get moving on that. So again, as outlined in the cover memo, we would be expending $25,000 of ARPA funds. We've received a $50,000 grant from the Pulte Family Trust, a $20,000 grant from a private donor on behalf of Park, $5,000 from the City of Plymouth, $8,000 from the sale of the two existing buses, and that's an estimate on my part. We may come short. I don't know. And then we will have to, we're still about $3,300 short. And so we would have to seek additional donations next year or get more money from the city. So I'll probably go back to the city for that, start with them. So again, these are 12-passenger vans. They're far more effective and efficient than what we have now. I did provide for you a chart that was put together by our transportation director, Kim Boyce. This goes back to 2018, and this is just an annual summary of the maintenance on the two buses that we currently have. Obviously, those numbers went down in 2020 and 2021 because of COVID, but the document kind of speaks for itself. Our last bad year was 2018 when we spent $8,181 just on maintenance. 2019, we spent $6,660 on maintenance. This year, we've already spent $2,310. So there's a lot of maintenance costs maintaining the two buses that we have right now. They are gasoline powered, they are not diesel. And then these vans that we would be purchasing would be more easy to drive, similar to a normal minivan or passenger car. And that's my request.
The city of Plymouth residents use this at about 75% of the ridership for there.
It's about 65 to 68%, but they pay that amount, you know, so
Okay.
they're paying, clearly, Chuck, and I agree, I mean, they're not paying 65% of these vehicles.
Purchase price, no.
But we're gonna own them, I mean, we own the vehicles, we have to man them, we have to staff them, we do all the work, we do all the administrative work, we do the scheduling. And so we do all the administrative overhead, and the city pays us about 65% of the cost, because they're about 65% of the riders.
Now, these are diesel.
No, these are not.
These are
vans,
These are gasoline.
these are gasoline,
All right,
yeah.
gasoline. And will there be any customization required, or it's just off the shelf?
No, these come customized. We had a list of items that we could have.
Is a lift
that we
part of
could
it?
quest- No, we don't have a lift in these vehicles, and there's a reason why. We had a bus at one point that did have a lift in it. It was rarely used. It was, probably did more harm than good, because it was so infrequently used. Both passengers and the truck and the bus driver were not comfortable operating it. And so what we do right now is if you do need handicapped access, we'll provide it. And then, but you have to pay for it as the rider. And then we contract with a private operator. And that's been working, we've been doing that now for about 4 years. And it
So
has
a
worked
little
out very
background.
well.
At one time, you were trying to find people to bid on.
Yeah.
Give us some background, because that's been a long time
Well,
ago.
I went through
Pre-COVID.
I wrote up a really detailed request for proposals for a private operator of these buses. And we got about 3 responses, and they were just outrageous. I mean, they were more geared towards a massive senior citizen facility or a hospital or a small airport or something like that. They were just way out of range of what we were looking for. We're not that big of an operation. So
you think they're going to get used?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe more with Henry Ford Hospital being here?
That's possible, but, the ridership it has been pretty stable for the last few years, and again, I think the biggest user in the city is the Tonquish Creek Manor. And I've approached Tonquish Creek on more than one occasion, and I've asked them to take over the bus program, and of course, they don't want it because of the administrative headaches associated with it. So this is a legacy issue that I did not create, and the city was more than happy to turn this over to the township back in 2015. And I've tried to give it back to them, and they don't want it. So I'm stuck with it. So I'm going to make the best of it. And if we can use some of our ARPA money to offset this and provide a better customer experience, I think these vehicles are safer. I think that they'll be more efficient and the less maintenance costs over time.
Yeah, they're mainstream vehicles that can be repaired at a local dealer or shop.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think in this economy right now, I think we could actually sell the 2 existing buses for a pretty good price. We've had a lot of success lately selling a lot of our used vehicles, and there is a demand by, for example, church groups, daycare, other types of care facilities or religious institutions that would be very interested in in purchasing these vehicles.
We can't sell them for a year from now. And
We cannot sell them.
By then, the
no.
market may
Well,
be
who knows,
tanked.
yeah, might tank again,
So it's
but
an estimation.
I don't think we're gonna sell the existing buses probably until the end of next year, or maybe even the first quarter of '24.
Who knows what the used vehicle market will be like then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
You want a motion?
Yes.
I think Mr. Stewart wants to do it.
He wants to do it?
Opposed motion?
Yep.
I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees approve Resolution 2022-08-23-51, placing an order with Signature Ford Lincoln of Owasso, Michigan, for 2 2023 Ford Transit 350 12-passenger vans for the Senior Transportation Program per the attached specifications. Said vehicles to be paid in fiscal year 2023 from 285 ARPA funds, 285-000-970.000-2023-285 V0005 capital outlay senior bus project account.
Thank you so much.
Second.
Motion by trustee Stewart, seconded by trustee Kermy. Any other questions from the board?
Are you
Anybody?
going to have to do a
budget
deposit?
amendment? No,
No,
no deposits. No, we don't pay until next year. So I'm just still rounding up the money. But I have most of it. Okay, Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Kermy?
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Supervisor Heisman?
Yes.
Trustee Buckley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Next up is Mr. Dorchevitz is going to, and Mr. Felrath, our DPW director, are going to walk us through the request to, a request for proposals to modernize the water meter infrastructure by deploying an advanced metering infrastructure system, also known as AMI. Jeremy, if you could zero in on that, may just expand that a lot more. And also engaging professional services from OHM engineers to assist in the preparation of the RFP and evaluation and selection of bidders. So Bob or Patrick, I don't know who wants to go first.
Okay, any questions? So I'll go ahead and I'll walk you through the slides, and we'll turn to Patrick for any of if there are any technical questions or details around what this is. But it's essentially an investment in infrastructure, a long-term investment. Jeremy, if you could forward on to the next about 6 pages forward, there's PDF that were the slides. It starts with advanced metering infrastructure.
What's the page number? 150?
Page number 148. Okay, there we go. I'm watching it on the live stream, and I'm talking on the phone, and the live stream's about 20 seconds behind. So, we first saw this presentation about a year ago when Mark put these slides together, and it's about 90% of a reuse. But probably one of the key things to understand about AMI is it's a technology less than a product. So there are a number of vendors that provide AMI type infrastructures. So what we did was, Mark had started working on this with Patrick. There's a draft RFP that is probably 90% done. It just needs to be looked over by an engineer, and it's 100 pages long, so it wasn't included as part of the packet at this point. If you go to the next slide, meter reading and billing, and essentially what is the problem here that we're trying to solve. So it's a little bit of a misprint. 80% of the meters are greater than 13 years old. So there's a number that are between the 13 and 15-year age. 15 years is considered industry standard at the time at which meters ought to be replaced, because as they age, one of the biggest challenges is they undermeasure consumption. So we have loss in the system that I'll talk about a little bit later, and that comes from non-revenue water leakage or loss. But we don't have the internal resources to replace them, and if we do this, we ought to do it as a project through a proposal and outsource the majority of this work of replacing it. We expect it to be about a 3-year project from start to finish. So right now, I think everybody knows meters are read manually. There's a port on exterior walls of the building, and the meter readers walk through the neighborhood and put a meter up to the port and read your water usage. One of the challenges is that it's quarterly, monthly for businesses, quarterly for residents. So you don't know about problems until it's too late. And I have a personal example where I haven't seen the bill yet, but I planted some grass seed and I turned on a manual sprinkler, and about 36 hours later at 4 a.m. I woke up and I bolted out of bed and I said, "Oh my God, I forgot to turn that sprinkler off." So that's one of the things that we see, occasionally, that I'll get to in one of the later slides. But the non-revenue water leakage varies from 5 to as much as 12% in an outlier year. So what that means is that we purchase X amount of gallons from GLWA that comes in the front end, and we sell 5 to 8% less than that. So where did that water go? A small part of it is through normal loss and the systemic loss. But as these water meters age, they tend to slow down in their reading, and so people are sometimes not paying their fair share, and because the meter's not measuring properly. So the ask today is to approve that we release the RFP in October and utilize engineering consultant from OHM, which is already budgeted. What we don't want to do, this is not a commitment today to move forward with this project, but if we're not serious about it, then we don't want to release an RFP and put people through a substantial amount of work if we're just kicking the tires. So what I would ask is that, we move forward with the RFP on the assumption that that we're going to move forward with the project. So in the next slide, it talks a little bit about evolution of meter reading. We talked about this last year. Basically, we're in the Stone Age here, manual reading. There's I don't know, Jeremy, if you moved ahead yet. I don't see that on the screen. Are you on page 150?
Yes.
Okay. So we're, there we go. There's a technology called AMR, which is automated meter readings, and I think people are familiar with that. That's about a 25-year-old technology in which there are transmitters on the exterior of the building, and you drive down the street in trucks and you pick up the readings. And, that was the thing to do in the past. But as we move forward into the future, the current technologies are AMI, which allow you to do basically hourly reading, and you can be very proactive about it, and we'll talk about some of the benefits of that. If you go to the next slide.
So who has AMR in the area today? AMR. Other than the Consumers Power Gas Company in Plymouth Township is using AMR, is that right?
Patrick, do you know the answer to that?
Yes. So the gas company is using AMR. The electric is using AMI. The city of Plymouth just awarded an AMI contract. Canton Township has AMR, but they're actively pursuing AMI. Livonia has AMI. Van Buren has AMI. Inkster has AMI. Northville Township has AMR.
AMR in Northville Township?
Correct. What we're finding out is all the communities with AMR are actively pursuing AMI.
So they're reinvesting again?
No.
Because all the meters have to be scrapped from AMR?
No, the infrastructure has to be put in. The base stations,
Okay, so the meters can be reused?
Yeah. Yes, but they're likely waiting for their meter change out. Because at that time, that's the opportune time to put in the infrastructure. And this is what we're presenting tonight. We're due for a change out. So this is our opportune time to upgrade our system.
So one of the questions is that we need to replace these meters regardless, and it's a question of whether we replace them continually to manually read or deploy an AMI system, and there's an incremental cost to that, but we can talk about that in a minute. So in the technology here, basically you have the water meter with the transmitter. You can have the transmitter on the meter, or you can have it exterior to the building. We would most likely have it exterior to the building, so the transmission is not happening inside the building, but is happening from the exterior port. Basically, the port would be replaced with a transmitter. So you have these data collectors that are positioned at key locations on 30-foot poles around the township. That would be part of the RFP when the bidders do their engineering. They would propose how that data collection system would be deployed. And then you have the management system, and that's where the magic occurs in the management system, because then you have the ability to do some of those customer service things that we talked about. So if you move on to the next one, we'll just skip the next slide, since it's oriented vertically anyway. But
This is where
this one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this was this one, Patrick? Where'd this come from? Was it Suez that laid out these potential locations, or how was that done?
Yeah, so we had a vendor come in a couple of years ago.
Jeremy, can we rotate that? There you go. And just expand on it?
And these would be, they're plotting several, so we had them do a propagation study because they offered to do it for free. So they did a radio propagation study, and they selected these locations as potential sites where you would have that antenna for the base station, for the collection of the data. They're called the data collection units. So they picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 locations.
Are these receivers or transceivers?
These would be receivers, but also they would do the backhaul and send the data up to the software system.
Also, they would send to the township hall.
Correct.
The data.
So these are antennas. They would be antennas. We have an antenna on top of this building. There would be antennas on top of the water towers. If they had to be on the ground, they can get as high as maybe 30 feet, but they're usually placed on existing structures. And also the number of locations depends on the system that you select. They had a proposed AMI system from Aclara, but there's other systems, other manufacturers where there would be less number of sites perhaps. But the idea is that radio propagation, you need these to collect all your data. You got to provide coverage of the entire township.
So to clarify, these are not cell towers or huge
No.
structures.
No,
They're
these
gonna-
would be
they're
small
gonna
antennas.
Small antennas, they co-locate as often as possible.
Correct.
On other facilities.
But if
Well,
they're not
much
co-located, they're on a 30-foot
Similar to our
pole.
SCADA system, our water SCADA system. We
Yeah.
have a repeater on top of the Lake Point tank, and we got antennas at the PRV stations.
Okay.
So, any other questions on that part of the project?
No, I
Okay,
think we can
if we move on
keep going.
to the next slide.
Rotate it back.
So some of the benefits from a revenue enhancement standpoint, right now our water rates calculate in a 5% assumed loss. It's part of the formula. So basically everybody's paying for loss in the system regardless of whether, whether it's there on their end or not, if that makes sense. So one of the questions that comes up is, what is the return on investment or the ROI on this project? There are some operational cost savings, but really it's an investment in infrastructure, an investment in the future, and I think it would permit or enable, future boards to have much more flexibility with how water is billed and customer service is improved. So there's some other things in there like asset management system identifies meters. I don't think we have a big problem with fraud, but but it will find that stuff. It'll find the assets. It's easier to predict what the peak hour would be and overall better customer service. I think the next slide talks about some of the customer service things that we can talk about. But what happens is that from time to time, somebody, particularly if they have a water power driven backup sump pump, and if that gets stuck open and they're in Florida, that thing can run and run and run, and people get bills of thousands of dollars, and they've used the water. So one of the things that this would do from a customer service standpoint is enable real-time usage reads. So when I gave my example the other day of me leaving my sprinkler on, I would have the ability with the system to be able to get alerts and alarms that, hey, you have a continuous running of water for 24 hours. Maybe you might want to look into that.
Tell me about that. How are you going to sense a 3 gallon per minute sprinkler is running, and how would you notify me if I screwed up and couldn't manage my sprinkler?
So the benefit of an AMI system from a technical standpoint, you get the data frequency increases. So you're getting readings every hour. Right now we get one reading every 3 months. So we're going to have, instead of 4 points throughout the year for one household, we're going to have 8,000 to 9,000 data points. The second is the data granularity, the resolution. Right now we're measuring water in 1,000 gallons. With AMI, we can get down to 10 or even 1 gallon or 1/10 of a gallon. So when you're reading at that high resolution and that much data, you're going to have much more accurate data available. Because right now, if you use less than 1,000 gallons, we're not measuring that, right? If we're measuring down to 1/10 of a gallon, we're capturing that usage pattern. So that data would be sent up to software, cloud server. There would be a customer portal, and the residents would have access to that through an app where they can get actual real-time data and see their pattern. But there are also capabilities of sending out emails and texts where you can set alerts. A customer can set alert, or the township can set up an alert based on the customer. He wants to know, for example, he or she wants to know, send me an alert if I'm using so much more than my annual average or my daily average or my weekly average. Send me an alert. And you can send an email or a text message through this software customer portal. So it's a huge, I think, customer benefit. We improve the customer service. Because we have all this data, it's a lot more accurate, and we can communicate and notify the residents back and forth. Snowbird can call us, tell us, hey, send me an alert if anyone uses water at this address. I want to know right away. So we can find out if a neighbor is using.
So Patrick, there would be an app that would go with this?
Yes.
I mean, I have an app for DTE. I have an app for Consumers Energy. I can track my usage.
Yes, there would be an
I can see
app.
where outages are. Okay.
There.
And then billings, one of the big complaints that we get about our current billing system is that we have a very limited window in which to pay our bills. So how would we be billed if this system were in place?
Well, that's the beauty of it. Since you're getting hourly data, you can set your billing time, and it's typically monthly.
Right.
Monthly bills.
Like every other utility.
Correct. And if a customer calls up, you got on-demand data. To one-call resolution is what they call in the customer service.
They would call up and ask for what?
Well, if they call up and they said, I didn't use this much water, you have hourly data at your disposal, and you have real-time data by a push of a button. So I think you can help them identify any type of water leak that they may have, or you can at least alert them of their usage pattern, what their historical usage pattern is and what they're using right now. help them figure out why they're using that much water.
Currently, there's a chart that you can make on our website, there's a chart of your water usage.
Yeah.
So I think one of the benefits is
That's
that,
historical.
to kind of answer your question is that we have the flexibility to define a lot of these things. We can define what our billing cycle is going to look like. We can define what alerts and alarms would look like, because we'll have the flexibility because of the system software, and we don't have to make those decisions right now. But through the RFP process, we'll gain an appreciation for what we can do as the policies that we can set as a board, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I threw one example in there. Some future board may want to customize rates. Say, hey, look, if you water your lawn at non-peak times, you'll get a lower rate for that. Customized billing dates and things like that. But I think it's the flexibility that it gives us and the ability to define what we want this to look like. And to Patrick's point, it's a significant improvement to the customer experience.
So I've heard a lot about the benefits of this. What are the downsides? Is there any data, any time-tested information in regards to the customers, the residents, and their satisfaction with it?
So somebody will complain that they're using the same amount of water and their bill went up, but what that means is they were underpaying.
Yeah, in a meter change, I think, to Trustee Doroshevitz's point, when you do a meter change out, you're replacing old meters with new meters. A lot of these old meters would be under registering consumption. So typically during a meter change out, whether you're getting AMI or not, as part of it, a lot of residents will see an uptick in their usage and thinking that something's wrong with the meter when it was because they were using a very old meter and it was gradually declining. But going back to your question, relative to what we're doing now, I think I see nothing but benefits. Because our system, we're still doing the old walk to the house, take a reading. It's more manual reading. It's called touch read, but it's more manual reading, and we're only collecting one measurement that measures to the nearest 1,000 gallons every 3
Yeah,
months.
I'm talking more about, so we had some information sent our way in terms of are there any health concerns with the radiation from
Oh, I
these?
understand.
Okay,
Well,
or,
you can
hold on,
you can find some.
in terms of the radiation or the disruption to the services in the home, because we're using more, this is an internet-based system, correct?
No,
No?
not correct. It's a closed system.
Okay.
Yeah, but it can get hacked, Bob.
So
could our current system.
How can you hack it if it's not electronic? Unless you have an employee
You could
that's
hack the billing system. You could hack BSNA.
hacked the
You can
what?
hack anything nowadays.
I mean, anything you want to believe, you can find something on the internet that's going to support your belief.
So my comment, there's been internet claims. And this is not new technology. This AMI has been around for 25, 30 years now. And those claims, the ones that were passed along to me, these are old
So
complaints.
there's nothing valid about them?
Well, we have to there's a couple of points. Number one, the FCC governs the health and safety with wireless communications. So they have permissible exposure limits to the general population. So they govern this type of system, the FCC. But the point is, I want to get into the details. I think the board, and I told Trustee Doroshevic this, if you go along with this project, you have to assume there's going to be maybe up to 2% of the people that will be adamantly against smart meters. No matter how much data, scientific data you provide to them, they're going to believe otherwise.
What is DTE's experience? In other words, how many
So
people
wait,
have opted out of?
Hang on a second, Chuck. Let Patrick finish
Okay.
that point.
Yeah,
because I think
so
it's a really important point.
so the 2 points is when we have this turnkey approach with a vendor, there's going to be a public educational campaign as part of the project to distribute the education. But also, the township will have to formulate an opt-out program, and this is what these communities usually do, where a resident, if they don't want a smart meter, they can opt out of the program. Doing that, though, they would have to pay an additional fee to cover the expenses of the township to continue to direct read their meter register and maintain their meter. So that's pretty common in these communities because there will be a small fraction that will just.
And Patrick, that stems from a Michigan Supreme Court case that goes back to the DTE electric meters, smart meters. It goes back, I think that case has been at least 8 years ago. And so basically what they said is if you opt out, you can opt out from the DTE electric meters, but you have to pay a very hefty fee for basically the hands-on maintenance and reading of that meter, and there is no guarantee that you're going to get the accuracy that you would get with a digital system. If you have a smartphone, you're probably exposed to more radiation every day than you're ever going to get from a meter. So,
100%, no question.
But it is cumulative.
So hey, Jeremy, can you go to the next? Well, you got to remember the transmitters for these meters are located outside of your house. They're located they're on the side of the house and they're transmitting to a receiver. So there is no. What's the term for that? It's not.
De minimis?
It doesn't. It's non-ionization transmissions and. So, without getting too much into the science.
Oh, Bob, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop at the wall. I mean, it goes right through the wall. It doesn't stop at the meter.
Yeah, the signal is not inside the house. The meter is hardwired to the radio transmitter that's mounted on the side of the house.
Right.
And the transmitter is transmitting maybe a minute per day. It doesn't continuously send out a signal like a cell tower.
But it goes right through the wall of the house.
It's like it is today. Your meter is wired to the wall of the house, correct?
Well, no. I'm talking about these microwaves go right through the wall of your house like they do today.
They're not microwaves.
Yeah,
they don't operate in the microwave frequency. That's another common
Well, that's what
claim.
we're asking is for the education, because it's not our expertise.
Yeah.
What is the wave called? Are they radio waves?
They're radio waves, but they don't operate in the microwave frequencies. None of them do.
Because a radio wave and a microwave is the same thing. It's just
No,
different.
a radio wave is an electromagnetic wave, but it doesn't operate in the microwave frequency. The microwave frequency is like 1 to 1,000 gigahertz. These radio waves.
It's a microwave.
Yeah, the microwaves are like the 1,000 gigahertz. The SCADA system, for example, operates in the same radio bandwidth. It's like 900 and 925 megahertz. So none of the AMR, AMI, and this is a common internet claim, that there's microwave radiation. They don't operate in microwave frequencies.
Okay, I'd like to, at this point, we have Kelly Ladowick. Well, hold on, Bob. We have Kelly Ladowick here tonight. She is actually the staffer here at Township Hall who runs the water meter system and who does the billing. So I'd like Kelly, if you don't mind, if you could come up at this time and just share your thoughts on the pros and cons of this system. As you are the person, we keep talking about the people who do the billing. Kelly's the person who does the billing. So this would impact her world substantially.
Okay, and I can't tell you how excited I am about this. When Bob or Leo Gonzalez was talking about aging in the township, I talk to older people all the time. who end up with a leak and they're 90 years old and can't get down to their meter in their basement. And I have to give them the bad news that they've got a $2,000 water bill. So this system would help to slow that process down so that they're not putting up that kind of money and not shocked by their budgets. The knowledge that we would get from this would be amazing. And to have billing on a monthly basis, instead of trying to remember every 3 months when that little postcard comes, and the post office has done wild things with it, and all of that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, I am not a public speaker.
It's okay.
Well, you can speak to us.
I've been there.
But this would help the whole community. It would allow us to bring down our costs overall, because we would be able to isolate cheaters, and we do have a few in the township that I keep a regular eye on, because I'm pretty sure that they are using more water than what they have. But this would benefit the township, definitely. And our meters aren't old. There is a whole lot of old meters out there. And we do not have the DPW crews to change them out. We just don't have enough guys to do the regular work that they need to do, plus replace all the meters that need to happen. And it would reduce on manual reads that come in error. And I bill an error, and then I have to go back and we have to adjust all of that. Because they transposed numbers when they were writing them down, and I billed with that. So those are things that can greatly improve with this. Plus, what I discovered during COVID is that when people are home and they notice people walking up to their homes, people were calling in and going, I almost shot your guy. He just walked up to my house and he didn't knock and he just touched my house and walked away. Why would he do that? It's like, he's reading your meter, please. Please don't hurt my guys.
Where did these people grow up and come from?
These are in the township.
Wow,
A lot more people
that's
are
discouraging.
getting dogs, they're putting in invisible fences. Our guys don't know those fences are there. They walk out to the house to do the thing, and here comes the dog around the corner tearing after them. There are some, plus you talk about building in the cold. Our guys have had to go out in 3 feet of snow and walk house to house to house to try and get reads. There are some situations where it's dangerous for our DPW guys to be out there gathering this information, and it's very limited information.
Kelly, what about the billing experience itself? I mean, right now, I see you a few times a year and you're at an old dot matrix machine, ka-chunk, 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 and everything comes out on these little postcards in a dot matrix format that I haven't seen since junior high. And, what can we do? And really this question's for all three of you. I mean, as a customer, what's my billing experience going to be like? Can I do everything paperless, like I do with every other utility in the world?
We do have paperless options now.
You have it now?
What I'm hoping is that with this system, we will get to a monthly basis so that you aren't having to wait.
But you
3
can't
months
bill
for
me.
a bill.
Can you bill people electronically right now? You don't.
I
can
do.
pay electronically.
No, you can pay electronically.
Right.
Right.
But it's an email bill. It
Right.
goes through your email. It looks, like a regular DTE bill that goes through the emails.
Yeah,
Do you get
yeah.
any bill? But they can go on our BSNA through the website. And they can see their bills and stuff. But most people don't understand the BSNA, so when they call in, they're like, well, I saw this, but I'm not exactly sure what's going on. And then I have to explain it.
How many days do we have to pay a water bill right now?
I try to print bills on the 25th so I can get them to the to the post office on the 26th of every month, as much as possible. Obviously, November and December are not going to happen that way. And there's a couple of
Approximately
other-
21 days then to pay your bill?
Yeah, if the mail is delivered on
If the
time.
mail
We
is
had,
delivered.
during COVID, we
Yeah.
had to extend the pay period because people weren't getting their bills,
Right,
because the mail wasn't being delivered.
right.
So it's an old system. And
It
you're-
is. I mean, it has to be replaced one way or the other. I think the question is whether it's replaced with yesterday's technology or today's technology. That's the fundamental question. If you go to the next slide, Jeremy.
But you have
talk a
two,
little bit
you have
about
two
the cost.
systems. You have the billing system and the reading system. It's two things.
Right.
One can be updated without doing the other.
I'm not sure about that.
No, you're not
Kelly,
sure
come
about
on,
that?
come on back, Kelly.
You can't have a different kind of printer, or you can't use a different electronic billing system? Yes, of course you can.
The meters have to be replaced anyhow. Whether
Yeah,
we go through and do this in a manual motion again.
Scroll back up. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kelly. You're doing a great job. Scroll back up, if you would, Jeremy, to the one before. Let's talk a little bit about the cost. So the slide, the original estimate was at about a $6 million capital outlay. I think Patrick thinks it's probably closer to $5 million. So replacing the meters themselves, with just comparing that to a meter replacement with traditional meters, probably adds what, Patrick, about a $1.5 million or so to the cost to put in the AMI infrastructure and update the billing systems, and then there's some annual maintenance already on that. There's a little bit of people cost savings from the meter readers. It's not going to be a 5-year payback period or something like that. But if the loss capture is realized at a run rate of 5%, and that loss capture goes away, then I think there's some models that have shown that there is some return on investment. I just don't want to overpromise on that point. So going on to the next slide from the perspective of the timing.
We're there. You'll catch up.
Okay. Yeah, I'll catch up. So what the ask is for the board to authorize the release of this RFP, which would target for about October 25th. There's some work that would be done with OHM, some engineering review, legal review that would release the RFP in October. It would give the vendors almost 2 months to respond, about 7 weeks. Then there'd be a period of time through the bid evaluation, vendor presentations, and scorecard. We'd have a committee, a selection committee that we'd put together. We'd determine criteria for scoring, shortlist the vendors, do the presentations, evaluate the bids over about a 4-month period. And then there's a period of time for the contract awards and negotiations. And the target would be to start the project around September 1st of 23 and start the build-out migration on about a 3-year build-out cycle.
Does that mean you'll operate it in some zones of the township first, after the meters? What is the timing for the meter change-out? Is it by zone?
So yeah, that's part of the proposal. They would have to present to us a meter replacement program, and we would be involved in that, working with Kelly, because you would likely have to go through zones and not proceed to the next zone until, say, 90% of that zone is done. So we would be involved in that, but that would have to be developed with whoever we choose for this contract, because it's important to note that once you award the contract, there's going to be 6 to 8 months of doing stuff before you even change out the first meter. You would have to install the infrastructure, and then you would have to implement the software, have it integrated with the billing system. You have to test it, you got to train the people. So there's a lot of legwork that would have to be done in that first 6 months before you would even change out your first meter.
One last question, I think, from me. Will there be any jobs lost in this as we're going smart? Kelly was
So,
talking
yeah,
about-
that's one point I wanted to mention to you. So we have 8 staff people in the field, 8. 3 of them read meters 2 to 3 weeks a month. So it doesn't leave us much time to do what we're supposed to be doing overall, you know, in terms of having a cleaning sewers, for example, program.
Yeah.
We can't catch up. We can't exercise our valves. 'Cause it's difficult when you got 2 guys tied up for 2 to 3 weeks a month. So instead of replacing people, I would say we would more efficiently allocate our employees to do other jobs that need to be done in the township.
So I have a lot of questions. Did Mark Clinton, who's been gone since October of '21, did he present this and we approve this project?
No.
No,
We
okay.
had this discussion with him.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it almost seems like we skipped a step. We need to evaluate the project based on different alternatives. What is the alternative if you stayed with manual? How much would it cost to replace those meters? We need a complete, well-done with either a break-even. I think you're going to have to analyze, you're going to have to raise water rates if you're spending $6 million. That's a big chunk.
Not necessarily.
Well, let's see the
Not
numbers.
necessarily.
I don't see any data. It's all soft data. We're not going to fire anybody. There's no break even. This is not well baked. You've had engineering economy, and that's how you have the cash flows where you think how much you're going to have to spend and how it's going to affect our budget. So I'm surprised that we're already to the RFP. I know all you guys are making faces, but this is how you make decisions. You do a business case of what you think it's going to be, not just all I think, I feel, it looks good.
I understand, and that's one approach. The other approach is let's bring in the different alternatives and proposals and review them and
But they're all
figure out the
proposals
costs.
to do
It's
this.
hard to evaluate anything in this climate, as you probably are well aware. You get the proposals, you go out and solicit quotes, and you do your valuation as you come in, and if you decide I don't want to do it, or you can do it a different way, that still can be done during that phase. And I think it's more efficient nowadays to do it in that phase.
It's more efficient to
Yeah,
ask
you
for
have-
quotes before you
have
know.
to. No. No, you got to read the RFP. When the RFP is ready, you'll have the ability to read that if you want. But in that RFP, it goes into considerable technical detail. But you're not going to ask vendors to quote on something that you're just wasting their time. If you're going to do a formal proposal stage, then that's what you do. You want to be serious about it because it's very costly, and vendors only have so much resources, and they're not going to spend weeks and weeks doing a proposal if there's no chance that you're even going to move forward with it. That's just wrong.
I agree with you
Not how
100%.
you do
This
it.
is all, what I'm saying is all this work should be done internally first to determine where we are, effect on water rates. What is the alternatives of doing this? Is there an ROI? How many, I haven't seen any data of how many people have had exorbitant water bills from a problem. There's no data here. It's all soft savings or customer service. Most people don't think about their water at all unless they have a problem. So I am miffed that you are unwilling to do a short paper with some analysis that is more than just, I think, I feel. Like, what does it cost? How many hours of labor does it take to change out a meter? What is the material cost to change out the meter? How many complaints have we had
Yeah,
of
I
people?
already figured that out. So going for a typical meter change out versus an AMI per house, it's about $100. That's where we came up with this. It would be $1 million difference between just doing a meter change out and doing a meter change out with a radio transmitter. This is where Trustee Dorshevitz mentioned the $1.5 million difference between the meter change out and doing the AMI.
So lay it out on a piece of paper, like you were doing a business case, of money.
Okay.
You could never get $6 million approved in a real business with this kind of documentation.
Okay,
Nothing.
understood. We understand.
So we
Okay.
want to do something smart.
Do any other trustees have any
It's free.
questions?
Well, wait a minute.
Well,
Let me
we're doing
finish,
a lot
please.
of speech making tonight.
No, I'm
so-
not making speeches.
Yeah, you are, man.
No, not speeches. We're trying to get to a good decision.
Yeah, we are. So let's take the next step.
Next step
You don't
without
like- you don't-
doing
you
the
don't
first
like
step?
I know you don't like the way this is being done. You've made that abundantly clear. Let's have the other trustees weigh in if they have any other questions. All right, any other questions for Patrick or Bob? Any questions in the audience? Mr. Zantop, let's go. You got 3 minutes.
Okay. I don't know what the hell the truth is, but I'll tell you what. A couple years ago, I attended a meeting in Lansing, and it was an all-day seminar. They had scientists from all over the country talking about the dangers of smart meters. Unfortunately, I can't locate the literature that they handed out at the meeting. Smart meters have been deployed along streets. Smart meters deployed along streets mean children walking to school, drivers and their passengers, people walking dogs or exercising their health will all be exposed to dangerous microwave radiations. Smart meters have been known to interfere with the operation of devices, rendering themselves useless. These include baby monitors, cordless phones, garage door openers, and more. Smart meters can cause malfunction or popping noises heard from cordless phones, with several reports of several hundred popping noises every minute. It can cause serious disruption and disability for residents. Some people can physically hear a shrill or ringing in their ears from smart meters after they've been installed. In quite a few number of cases, there have been reports that they've been caused severe ear pain. Some people can no longer live in the area after smart meters have been installed. In addition, some animals, including household pets, become ill after smart meters have been installed. Exposure to the radiation emitted by small utility meters has been associated with the development of serious health problems, including disturbance to heart development, cancers, inflammation, and vision problems. Smart meters emissions were 5,300 times higher than the independent scientists believe is safe. So I don't know what the truth is, but this is something we should look at before we go ahead with this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Come on up. We will need your name for the record, too.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to talk to you. My name is Julia Yellick. I've been a township resident for over 25 years. Real short and sweet. I am please asking the board to approve this RFP. I was Director of Procurement and Logistics at Detroit Public Schools, and I support what they're doing, and yes, I can tell you from solid experience, you gather a lot of information through the RFP process. We cannot make all these decisions in advance. Totally respect what you said about the budget, and I'm thinking Patrick can get this stuff put down on paper and get us the solid data that you requested. I'm very excited as a resident about this. My thought, Kelly, when you were speaking right away was, gee, a person like me could monitor our mother's usage in her and her house because I could have access to the app and I could help protect her. So that would be like a major advantage. And let's just move into the future. And it's just the RFP. Let's just say yes, go for it, and run the timeline and see what happens, what we can get.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Well, you got to come up.
Seems like a lot of trouble for a question.
Now,
Is there a cost?
no, come on up.
So the public can hear you.
Rick Ward, Plymouth Township, 25 years. Is there a cost associated with the RFP?
I believe so, right, Patrick?
Just primarily internal labor, but part of this proposal is to utilize some outside engineering consulting resources, and that's in the packet.
$15,000 approximately, 10 to 15.
Yeah, which is not a new, which is already comprehended in the existing budget.
Yes, and just to note, that's more of an as-needed assistance from an engineering firm that would take us up through the solicitation of bids and also be a part of the review and the recommendation of a system, if you ever get that far.
Okay, anybody else? Come on up.
My name is Dan Cable. I moved here in 1964. I've owned a home here since 1982 on McClumpher Road. Jerry Vorga, I met the other day. Appreciate your good service at the office there. And I welcome you to the Board of Trustees here. I think finally we get a little diversity on the board. Someone who doesn't have a law degree, for example, I think that's a plus. I couldn't agree more with Mr. Kermy than what he just said about this has got to be the worst case for getting $6 million that I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot bigger investment projects than $6 million. There's no case made here to put any numbers to anything. We're doing it because all the other people around us have done it, which is probably the worst reason to do anything. Nobody great ever did things just like everybody else did them. So my opinion is that there needs to be, instead of what I would call the business idea here, there needs to be an actual case made, and it can be done internally with the kind of resources you obviously have. And I recommend that you do that, rather than saying, let's start the ball rolling on spending $6 million, which is kind of the mood I feel here sitting and listening to this. Thank you very much for the time to speak with you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All righty then. Any other questions for Patrick or for Treasurer Dorshevitz? All right, hearing none, I move to approve Resolution 2022-08-23-52, authorizing the Treasurer and Director of Public Services to engage engineering services to assist with the RFP and to authorize the completion and release of the RFP for the modernization of the water meter infrastructure system by developing an advanced metering infrastructure system to replace all water meters in the township and to engage professional services from OHM to assist in the preparation of the RFP and evaluation and selection of bidders. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Borba. Take the roll when you're ready.
Supervisor Heisel.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
No.
Trustee Stewart.
No.
Motion carries.
Okay, very good. So we are going to proceed to public comment. Again, limited to 3 minutes. This is on anything else not related to the agenda. Okay. All right, then board comments. Let's start with Clerk Vorba because you have an update on the 2022 primary.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We had the election just a couple weeks ago, and of course, I want to start off by thanking my staff, my deputy clerk, and all the people in the clerk's department, and all of our volunteers that helped out in the precincts and here in the absentee accounting board. They all did a wonderful job. This takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication by my staff, which is full-time, and all the volunteers, and they did an outstanding job in completing the fundamental right that we all enjoy of our First Amendment right to vote, and they did just an outstanding job. And it was another very successful election in that all the votes, all the absentee ballots that were sent out and returned were counted, every single one of them. We sent out 6,319 ballots. We received 5,396 ballots. And if you were to look at our results, you see that in the counting board, they counted 5,396 ballots. So everyone who cast a ballot on Visa absentee that returned it was counted accurately. And then the other ballots were around 2,000 ballots that came in via the polls. Everybody who went to the polls, who cast a ballot that was properly cast, was counted. So again, it was a very successful operation when you realize that all the people who exercised their right to vote, those votes got counted. And so it was done very accurately. And again, we need to thank all those people who spent hours and hours, one, being trained, and all the people who helped their fellow citizens and residents cast their ballots. Also, could we have RJ out in the control room? Could you just step out here for a second, RJ? RJ is our this is RJ Dorshevitz. Now, he handles our audiovisual. He's a senior in the Plymouth Canton School District. And he also worked for us inside the clerk's department and helping people receive their absentee ballot request forms, receiving the ballots, helping them get processed, and he did an outstanding job. And so I wanted to thank him personally for doing just a fantastic job. And quite frankly, because of his efforts, he actually saved money in overtime for the township in doing that. So RJ, thank you very much for that. And it's a good testament that young people want to get involved and do a wonderful job for us. So again, yes, thank you.
So, Jerry, on this page that you handed out, that said returned late absentee ballots, does that mean they weren't some of those weren't returned at all?
Some are not returned at all.
So it's both returned late and all, or not returned at all?
Not returned at all, because we had maybe about 20 or 25 ballots that came in late. They're in this mix of 923 ballots that were not returned at all.
So almost 900 people received ballots and never mailed them in?
Never got them back to us. Like say, a couple dozen of them did come in later, either vis-a-vis through the mail or dropped off here. I attribute that a lot to the fact that people even called and said, well, wait a minute, what happened to all the other candidates? Remember, we had 5 candidates that did not make the ballot on the Republican side. Some people didn't realize that until they got their ballots and said, wait a minute, where's my person that I wanted to vote for? So I think that attributed to doubling the size of the people who didn't return, because having a 14% non-return is very high in the township of Plymouth. It's more closer to like 7 or 8% normally. But I attribute that to people not realizing at the very last second that their guy or gal was not on the ballot. And so, again,
so those people created a lot of unnecessary work and labor in your department.
Yes, well, what you have to realize is that there are things that government functions that we do, even though police and fire are very, very important, they're not a fundamental right. What goes on in the building department is not a fundamental right. The water department is not a fundamental right. The only thing that we do that really is a fundamental right is voting. And so we have to realize that in the past, elections have always been looked at, well, just people are just voting. And it's always been treated as like the redheaded stepchild of the things that government does. Really, it's the most important thing we do. And so this is not your grandfather's elections anymore. They're serious. They need to be looked at very seriously. You have a serious professional staff here, and you have wonderful volunteers who help their fellow citizens exercise their fundamental right to vote. It's going to cost more money in the future. It's not going to cost less. But it's the one thing we do that is fundamental, and I think we do a very good job of it here in Plymouth Township.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. Let's start with, let's go over to Bob Dorshevitz. I keep looking over that way because that's where his voice is emanating from. So Bob, do you have anything for us tonight?
It's coming from above. Yeah, I do. You know what's interesting is that when you serve as a part-time trustee over the years, you don't really get the opportunity to see the inner workings of Township Hall on a day-to-day basis. And I just want to say a couple things. One is I want to give a shout out to my team of Amy and Carrie and Claudia, who just handle things. And there's no drama. It's really the best team that I've ever led because they just do their jobs. And I see that all over Township Hall on a daily basis. People just do their jobs. They want to be helpful to the public. They're empathetic, and I've been watching that in the months since I've been on board, and I'm really grateful for that. And not only as in my capacity, but as a resident, to see how well our staff treats the public day in and day out, and really is always trying to be very helpful. And so I just wanted to express those thoughts.
Thank you, Bob. Is that all?
That's it.
Okay.
Would you like any more?
No, we'll look forward to seeing you at our next meeting.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, Trustee Buckley,
No comment tonight.
you're all set? John Stewart?
I want to thank the clerk's office,
Wait a minute.
all of the election workers for a extremely clean primary election. And we should do everything we could to encourage the most number of people to vote. I attended the day-long session validating the machines, and I deeply appreciate this. Now, fire chief and police chief, a longtime Lake Point resident knocked on my door. He's a retired engineer, and he's a Stanford grad. He congratulated me and thanked me because a police officer had stopped a car in Lake Point blowing through a stop sign. I want you to invite all firefighters and all police officers Sunday afternoon, October 9th, in front of Farron School, cider and donuts, and we really appreciate you guys.
Donuts for tots?
Sunday afternoon, October 9, 2 to 4, cider and donuts for all township, police, and fire. Thank you very much and good night.
No overtime on that, by the way. Okay, Trustee Kermy.
Okay, several easy ones. Sidewalk repair, when's the start and where? Jeremy?
Sidewalk repair program started on Monday, and it started up on Sheldon and 5 Mile, and we're gonna work our way down section 2. So it's gonna take about 20 days total to complete all the repairs in zone 2.
Okay, good. When are you going to talk to us about the Ann Arbor Trail sidewalk?
Ann Arbor Trail sidewalk, the Golfview Park sidewalks, and the Township Hall entrance are all on the September 13th BOT agenda for bid award. We've gotten the bids back.
Merlot was the successful bidder?
Yep.
Is it something that we're going to do next year, or you think it'll be this year?
Nope, the contract states they have to finish everything by November 30th. So we've talked to them about that already.
Okay. Jerry, I've had a hard time finding the census community survey. Will somebody in the township see if they can find it?
Sure.
It's the U.S. Census Bureau does a community survey. It's great demographic data. I know that Nanny Wolf sent us a link, but it was a link to the general
one.
But I could not find the community survey in there.
Yeah.
So if you could get that and hand it out to us, it'd be great.
Do you know if it exists? I'm not trying to be smart, I'm just.
But they collect the data, but maybe it isn't available yet, but it's 2 years later.
Yeah, well.
Normally, it would be available a year ago.
Sure. Well, obviously, the federal government screwed that up with COVID, and I've since heard that you've got bad data, for congressional districts across the country and et cetera, so.
The community survey is that very detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
know what you're talking about. I have not seen it.
I don't know if they ever did it right, did it at all.
Senior picnic, when is the date, and are you collecting donations this year or not?
Oh, yeah, so the senior picnic is September 14th at the, at Township Park at the Four Seasons Pavilion. And this is put on by the Plymouth Council on Aging. It's not a township event. The PCCA is a 501c3 nonprofit. Pretty sure I sent all you folks.
I must have missed it. It's a fundraiser, right? Is it a
Well,
fundraiser
it's their
this year?
annual fundraiser, yeah, and a
okay.
picnic
I
and
must have missed
ice
it.
cream and all. I thought I sent the invite out to all of you quite a while ago. It's also on our Facebook page still, so, but if you need it, just send me an email tomorrow.
As part of our update of our Facebook page, not Facebook, our
Website?
can we put the link to our Facebook and other media stuff?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
I think you're updating it or upgrading it now or
I think,
something?
yeah, we are, but I think you can link, to our Facebook page right now on the website. Don't quote me on that, but we'll.
Like on the face page, it'd be great.
The homepage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, excuse me. The
Yeah, no, I
homepage.
got you.
Sorry. September 13th meeting. I'd like
Yes.
to add an agenda item, and that agenda item is the tax collection administration fee, to lower it or delete it. Bob and I will work together on that. I've already identified 150 million in offsets versus the Mark Clinton PDF or presentation he was making to homeowners associations and other people. So maybe we can give residents even more than the good service. We might be able to give them a dinner for free.
Okay,
They'll save
well,
$50.
You're gonna have to draft up whatever you need for that, like a cover memo and a resolution and everything. I mean, are you looking for board action or a discussion?
Yes, it's the same night as we're approving our millage rate. So that way we know whether where we are on both of those, because that's our revenue. Bob, you have indicated
What are you talking about again? I kind of
I'm
missed
sorry.
that.
You and I have spoke about this in general, is the lowering or the deletion of the collection fee on the property tax. It's about $800,000 a year. I think we can reduce it. I think that we have other offsets that have come in over the last 2 to 3 years, and some of the assumptions in Mark Clinton's presentation never came to fruition. So.
I'm curious, what presentation are you talking about?
Well, Mark Clinton went around to all of the community organizations and gave a presentation.
So you're talking about the police and fire millage from 2018?
Yeah, but it had the collection fee as part of it.
Oh, okay.
So bottom line is, if the collection fee is reduced or eliminated, it blows a hole in the budget that we have to make up somewhere.
That's what I said. I have the offsets.
And you'll be sharing us with that on September 13th?
Yeah, share it to me right now, but.
Then sooner the better.
What's not on the agenda now?
Sooner the better. I mean, Ginger has a draft budget right now that by law we have to provide by September 1st.
Bob and I have briefly talked about this, and so.
I don't know, you keep dragging
Yeah,
Bob into this.
I was in your
don't know.
office, Bob. Yeah, we briefly talked about it. So you told me I had to bring it in August, but I'm late, so I thought it would be good to do it when we have the L form that we have to approve. L, whatever it.
L 429.
Yeah.
4029, yeah, I sent that out on Friday.
Well, if you've identified budget cuts, then Chuck, then please share those with us.
We have had we've had increased revenue.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's not budget cuts, it's increased revenue that was not anticipated when we approved that fee.
Okay. Well, if you could share that with us and Ginger especially, because Ginger is working on the draft budget as we speak.
Great.
Okay.
Bob, when will you be back in the office, or to be determined?
Well, hopefully I'll sooner rather than later, but it's up to the virus.
Okay, great.
Okay, so as mentioned earlier, we have, our next meeting will be September 13th. We'll have the presentation. These are not necessarily in order. We'll do the annual tax rate approval. We will do we have a series of budget amendments from Ginger. We'll do the approval of the sidewalk. Now, these are the bids, Jeremy, for the sidewalk gap program, the repairs out, the rebuild out here in front of Township Hall, and then the pathways at Gulfview Park. Right. Correct? Okay. Then we have the police and fire budget. And of course, the police and fire budget is about 2/3 of our overall budget. And then we have as of now, the final approval for the Elks Lodge planned unit development. So it's a busy night. So I'll add Mr. Kermey's item as well. Just get that information to me when you can.
So the Elks Lodge is ready to be reviewed by the board.
Yeah, well, it's ready for final approval because it's been now through the Planning Commission probably 5 or 6 times. They went to the Planning Commission over the summer for further refinements. It was approved by the Planning Commission at their last meeting. I think it was, Jeremy or Bob, I don't know if that was unanimous or at least it was 6-1, but it was pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, so it was 6-1, and then at the end, Dennis asked if he could change his vote, which was too late, but I think he had a change of heart as well.
Okay. All right, so again, busy night on September 13th, so that's all we've got. That's all I've got at this point. Any questions for me on anything? All set? Okay, then. I'll need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by trustee Stewart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by clerk Vorba. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, Bob.
All right.